It's 1988. A Filipino man named Rogelio Roxas is sitting inside a prison cell. He did nothing wrong. He didn't steal. He didn't hurt anyone. The only thing he did was find something. Something so big, so unbelievable, that the most powerful man in the Philippines had him arrested, beaten up, and locked away, just to keep him quiet. So what did Rogelio find? A golden Buddha, made of solid gold, almost 3 feet tall, weighing more than 1,000 pounds. And according to Rogelio, that golden Buddha was just the beginning. It was the door, literally and figuratively, to one of the biggest treasure stories in all of history, the Yamashita treasure. Hundreds of billions of dollars worth of gold bars, precious stones, and priceless items. All of it supposedly hidden underground across the Philippines by the Japanese army during the last days of World War II. But here's the thing. This story is not really about buried gold. It's about a dictator named Ferdinand Marcos, and how he may have used that gold, or the story of it, to pull off one of the biggest financial crimes the world has ever seen. Secret bank accounts in Switzerland, fake companies in Europe, billions of pesos, billions of dollars, gone, while the Filipino people suffered. And it all starts with a Japanese general named Yamashita, and the legend that people still talk about today. Stay with me, this story goes very deep. To understand the treasure, you need to understand the man whose name is attached to it. General Tomoyuki Yamashita was one of the most dangerous and skilled military commanders in all of World War II. The Japanese newspapers called him the Tiger of Malaya, and he truly earned that name. In February 1942, Yamashita did something that shocked the whole world. With only 30,000 soldiers, fewer men than the enemy had, he captured Singapore. More than 80,000 British and Allied soldiers surrendered to him. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, called it the worst defeat in British military history. This man was brilliant, he was feared, and he was ruthless. By 1944, the Japanese were losing the war. America was pushing back hard across the Pacific. So Japan sent Yamashita to the Philippines, their last major stronghold before the Americans could reach Japan itself. His job was almost impossible. Hold the islands, slow down the enemy, buy time. And this is where the treasure story begins. As Japan lost more and more of its empire, the Japanese military was sitting on an enormous amount of stolen wealth. Gold from banks across Southeast Asia, treasures taken from temples, museums, and palaces in China, Malaya, Indonesia, Burma, and other countries they had conquered and occupied. Precious stones, platinum, all of it collected over years of war and occupation. But now the sea routes back to Japan were being destroyed by American submarines and warplanes. They couldn't ship the gold home. So according to the legend, the order came, hide it, bury it in the Philippines, create tunnels, underground vaults, and hidden rooms all over the country. The plan was to come back for it after the war, when Japan finally made peace and could recover its hidden assets. The tunnels were supposedly dug by thousands of forced workers, prisoners of war, local Filipino, who were made to work against their will. And then, in the darkest version of this story, those same workers were sealed inside the tunnels, buried alive. So they could never tell anyone where the treasure was hidden. Yamashita himself surrendered to American forces in September 1945, one of the last Japanese commanders to give up. He was put on trial for war crimes because of the terrible things that happened under his command, including the Manila Massacre, where more than 100,000 Filipino civilians were killed in just 1 month. He was hanged in February 1946. He died without ever saying whether the treasure was real or not, and so the legend was born. No one left to prove it, no one left to deny it. the perfect conditions for a myth, and the perfect conditions for someone to take advantage of it. Now we need to talk about Ferdinand Marcos, because this is where the story stops being a war legend and becomes something much darker, something that hurt millions of real people, a story of power, greed, and one of the most shameless stealing operations ever done by a sitting president. Ferdinand Marcos was elected president of the Philippines in 1965. He was charming, politically smart, and from the very beginning, he had an enormous hunger for wealth and power. In the late 1960s and 1970s, he started building a personal legend about himself. He claimed to be a great war hero, the most decorated Filipino soldier in all of World War II. Many of those war medals and decorations, it was later discovered, were made up or greatly exaggerated. The American Army itself investigated his claims and found them to be false. But inside the Philippines, people believed the story. And Marcos understood something very important. The person who controls the story controls everything. In 1972, using communist rebels and civil unrest as his excuse, Marcos declared martial law. He suspended the Constitution, the highest law of the land. He shut down Congress. He had his political enemies arrested. Critics were jailed, tortured, and in some cases, they simply disappeared. The Philippines became his personal property, and he was going to make himself very, very rich. Now here is where the Yamashita treasure becomes more than just a folk story. Marcos didn't simply believe the treasure was real. He organized government-funded expeditions to find it. He sent the Philippine military to dig in different parts of the country. He hired treasure hunters from other countries. By all accounts, he became truly obsessed. And at some point, and this is the big question that investigators and historians have been wrestling with for decades, Ferdinand Marcos may have actually found some of it. Or at the very least, he found something. Because between the early 1970s and 1986, the Marcos family collected a fortune so massive, so completely out of proportion to any honest source of income, that the numbers simply make no sense unless you have a hidden explanation. By the time they ran away from the Philippines in 1986, estimates of the Marcos family fortune ranged from $5 billion to $10 billion. Some investigators said it was even higher and possibly $35 billion. Let's put that in perspective. The entire yearly budget of the Philippine government in the early 1980s was around $8 billion. A president, earning a president's salary, had somehow collected a fortune equal to several years of the entire country's budget. After Marcos fled in 1986, the new Philippine government under President Corazon Aquino created a special body called the Presidential Commission on Good Government, the PCGG. Their mission? Find the stolen money and bring it back to the Filipino people. What they discovered was truly shocking. The Marcos money was hidden inside a complicated web of fake companies, false foundations, and secret bank accounts spread across dozens of countries. Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, the Cayman Islands, New York, London. Investigators found accounts under made-up names, foundations named after figures from ancient Greek history, layer after layer of paper companies, all designed to make the money impossible to trace. Among the assets that were frozen and eventually recovered, more than $500 million in Swiss bank accounts, hundreds of millions more in real estate in New York, art collections, mountains of jewelry, the thousands of pairs of shoes that Imelda Marcos left behind became a worldwide symbol of how shameless the excess was. But those shoes were just the smallest piece of the puzzle. And all throughout the paper trail, investigators kept finding references to gold, very large amounts of gold. This is where the Yamashita treasure theory starts to feel very real. In 1986, when the Marcos government collapsed and the family escaped to Hawaii, Philippine authorities searched Malacanang Palace. Among the things left behind were documents that mentioned gold bullion transactions, maps showing tunnel locations, and this is the detail that makes people stop and stare. References to gold bars that were stamped with markings that did not match any Philippine gold. Gold that could not be explained by any official mining record or central bank history. Gold that, on paper, should not have existed. Investigators also found evidence that Marcos had been working with certain people inside the Swiss banking system, and possibly with secret elements of the American government, like to move and hide very large amounts of physical gold. In 1987, a former associate of Marcos named Severino Garcia Santa Romana, known simply as Santi, reportedly claimed before he died that he had helped Marcos move gold recovered from Yamashita hiding places into secret Swiss bank accounts. His documents, if they are authentic, suggest the gold was absolutely real, and the amount was enormous. And then there is the story of Rogelio Roxas. Remember Rogelio Roxas from the beginning? Let's go back to his story. Because out of everything in this whole saga, his is the most real, the most documented, the most human. Rogelio Roxas was a Filipino locksmith and part-time treasure hunter from Baguio City. In 1971, after hearing a tip from a man who claimed his father had been a Japanese soldier, Roxas and a small group of friends started digging in the mountains near Baguio. What they found, according to Roxas, was a tunnel system. And inside one of the chambers, they discovered skeletons of Japanese soldiers, a number of gold bars, and one large statue of Buddha, carved in solid gold. According to Roxas, the statue was hollow inside, and hidden within that hollow space were diamonds and rubies, precious stones concealed inside the golden figure itself. Roxas brought the statue and some of the gold bars back to his home. He showed local officials. Word spread fast, and within months, Marcos heard about it. In 1972, the same year Marcos declared martial law and gave himself unlimited power, Rogelio Roxas was arrested. Soldiers came to his house, the golden Buddha was taken away, the gold bars were confiscated. Roxas was detained without charges, beaten, and warned never to speak about what he found. He didn't stay quiet. He fought back. In 1988, Roxas filed a lawsuit in Hawaii against Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos, saying they had stolen his treasure by force. Marcos died in 1989, but the case continued against Imelda. In 1996, a jury in Honolulu ruled in favor of Rogelio Roxas and gave him a judgment of $22 billion. It was the largest civil court judgment in American history at that time. The Hawaii Supreme Court later reduced parts of the amount, but the main finding stayed the same. Ferdinand Marcos had ordered the theft of Roxas's treasure, and Imelda Marcos was responsible, $22 billion. A jury believed him. Now, did Roxas really find the Yamashita treasure, or just a small part of it? This is where things get complicated. Investigators noted that the gold bars Roxas described were stamped with markings that did not match Philippine gold production. The stamps looked like they came from central banks and other parts of Southeast Asia. Exactly the kind of gold that Japanese forces would have looted from countries like Indonesia, Malaya, and China during the war. Gold that, by rights, belonged to those nations. If true, this was not just Philippine gold, it was the stolen wealth of half of Asia. Now here is the part of the story that most documentaries skip over. The part that goes into territory so complicated and so dark that it is hard to know exactly what is true. Beyond the Rojas case, some researchers, including journalists, former intelligence officers, and financial investigators, have made an even bigger claim. They say that Marcos, working together with certain people inside the American government during the 1970s and 1980s, used gold recovered from Yamashita's hiding places as a kind of collateral and financial guarantee for a secret and unofficial money scheme. That this gold moved quietly through Swiss and Asian banks, was used to create unofficial gold certificates and financial documents worth possibly trillions of dollars. We need to be careful here, because this is the area where proven facts become theory, and theory can become pure guessing. What is proven? Marcos did try to sell large quantities of gold on international markets in the late 1970s. The transactions were unusual enough that the Bank for International Settlements, which is basically the bank for all the world's central bank, took notice. There were questions about where this gold came from. Those questions were quietly dropped and forgotten. What is claimed but not fully proven, that a secret deal existed between the Marcos government and elements of American intelligence, especially because of the Cold War. The Philippines was a very important American ally. Clark Air Base and Subic Bay Naval Station were among the biggest and most important US military bases in the world. America had good reasons to keep Marcos in power, to turn a blind eye to things they should not have ignored. We don't have solid proof of this arrangement. What we have is a pattern: big gold transactions, suspicious movement of money off the books accounts. That points in a very troubling direction. What we do know is this: when the Swiss accounts were finally opened, after 1986, the money inside came from somewhere. Under pressure from Philippine courts, Swiss banks eventually agreed to return around $600 million. $600 million, out of a fortune estimated in the tens of billions. The rest is still missing. Ferdinand Marcos died in Hawaii in 1989, in exile, still saying he was the victim of political enemies, still insisting he had done nothing wrong. Imelda Marcos came back to the Philippines. She eventually ran for Congress and won. The Marcos family, incredibly, slowly fixed their image in the eyes of many Filipinos over the following decades. In 2022, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the son, was elected president of the Philippines. The same family, back in power. The Presidential Commission on Good Government is still working today, still trying to recover what was stolen. After all these decades, more than $1 billion has been returned to the Philippine government. But investigators believe that the biggest part of the fortune, wherever it came from, however it was hidden, is still out there somewhere. As for the Yamashita treasure itself, people are still looking for it. Treasure hunters still walk through the mountains and coastlines of the Philippines, armed with old maps, metal detectors, and stories passed down from their grandparents. The Philippine government has tried at different times to control or stop these expeditions, but people keep going anyway, because when a legend is this powerful, it refuses to die. Whether or not there are billions of dollars in gold hidden under Philippine soil, people will never stop searching. The story is too big, and the idea that it might all just be a myth is too painful to accept. But maybe the real treasure was already found long ago. Not in a cave, not in a tunnel, not in a hidden underground room. It was found in the paper trail, in the bank statements, in the testimony of a simple locksmith from Baguio City who told the truth and was punished for it. The real question this story asks you is not whether Yamashita buried his gold in the Philippines. The real question is, What happens to a country when its leaders steal? Not a little, not quietly, but on a massive, shameless scale, and face almost no real punishment. The Philippines lost decades of progress during the Marcos years. Schools that were never built, hospitals that never opened, roads that never got fixed, an entire generation that grew up in poverty that did not have to be that way. That is the true cost of the treasure. Not the gold itself. The cost was time, the cost was the lives of ordinary Filipinos, and the full reckoning, the complete accounting still has not come.